The Climate Hoax and Reality, an exercise in logical thinking. Am I a climate scientist? No, sirree. I am not. Then what qualifies me to speak about climate science, the climate hoax? Well, isn't that the problem we have nowadays? No one is qualified to say anything unless they have a PhD in the field. Well, I have a master's degree, admittedly in the wrong field, English literature, and well, if experience has taught me anything, these degrees don't mean squat. Nope. I didn't learn anything useful or true during my adventures in higher education. Nothing at all, except perhaps what I taught myself during my readings and research. Well, we can't any longer trust our own senses, our own logic. We can't think for ourselves. No, we must bow to the experts. Well, um, that means we've made no progress. We're still in the age of religion when we depended on priests to tell us the truth, tell us about God and the devil and all those things we couldn't see and couldn't reason about. Now we depend on scientists, economists, and so on with all their tools, instruments, technologies to which we don't have access and to which we don't need access. We can reason for ourselves. We can make sense of life without all the PhDs, the Harvard boys, and their ilk. That said, I have done some research in this field as I research virtually every field. No field is safe when I am near. Um, I will share for a moment a document I have built over the years, Trees and Truth versus Geoengineering and the Climate Change Hoax. This document is a mere 123 pages, loaded with links to articles, and there you go. Charts, graphs, and such things. Um, so yeah, I've done my share of careful research into this minefield, and some of my research led to articles such as this one short article that appeared on principiascientific.com. But today, I want to share my own thoughts on this matter, and I think you'll find it unique. I don't know anyone else who has come to my conclusions. Well, let's begin. Conscientious nature, life loving one moment, life loving one moment again. I will share the slide from a collection of slides, if I can manage that. And yeah, that's it there. Okay, good. Ready to go. Conscientious nature. life-loving people, that's hopefully most of us, naturally want to protect Earth's life-giving environment for themselves and their descendants. Most people don't want to die and can't think very well when they fear for their lives. So it's easy for the media and scientists to use evidence of environmental crises to inspire fear and create belief in false causes and solutions. Here I will argue that we do have an environmental crisis, but it is not related to minuscule increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide content, and the solution is very different from the ones being promoted by our enemies. Here's a little pie chart demonstrating how little, how as a percent, how little greenhouse gases comprise in our atmosphere. Nitrogen being the vast majority, oxygen next, and well, carbon dioxide, 0.03% of atmospheric gases. And this puts an even starker perspective on it, as the first chart shows that all greenhouse gases comprise only a maximum of 2% of atmospheric gases, and of that 2%, carbon is a mere 3.62%. And of that 3.62% of the original 2%, only 3%, 3.4 is anthropogenic, man-made. Although others would argue it's a little more, but I think the point's clear. It's very little. And well, so what? Can I prove with my eyes or in a laboratory that greenhouse gases somehow form a shell around the planet, preventing heat from leaving the planet and somehow allowing heat to enter the planet while our planet is flying through infinite space, which is mostly an infinite vacuum, which somehow doesn't suck the atmospheric gases off the planet. Yeah, this is mostly fairy tale stuff. Besides, carbon dioxide is actually good for trees. So if we're intent on reducing carbon dioxide, we're not doing plants a favor. In fact, there are businesses that pump carbon dioxide into their greenhouses, extra carbon dioxide, in order to help their plants grow. It's plant food. And according to ice cores, paleontologists, carbon dioxide content was much higher in the past, precisely at that time when there were more trees and plants on this planet, or bigger ones, both. There's another business involved in the carbon dioxide supplementation business. Um, Additionally, even if true, rising temperatures are good for plant growth, as you can witness yourself by visiting the tropics, where tropical temperatures, if combined with forests, also produce regular rainfall, which is also very good for plant growth. But who needs plants? Who needs plants? Nah, just give us Costco or some other department store, box store, whatnot. Who needs plants? This brings me to the true cause of our droughts and heat waves, which are quite real and can be verified by just about anyone, at least with a phone call to people who are farming. Vanishing, vanishing forests are the cause of our droughts and heat waves, not greenhouse gases such as CO2. Trees create cooler, on-the-ground temperatures, and you can confirm this by driving out of a city and walking into a forest. Eliminating trees always results in rising daytime temperatures. This is the reason giant, mostly treeless cities such as Beijing reach 40 degrees Celsius during summers, while smaller cities on the same latitude line have lower temperatures. Tokyo, the world's largest city, encourages rooftop gardens with trees in order to lower its stifling summer highs. Even a thin layer of greenery, just some grass and weeds, can reduce soil temperatures and prevent evapotranspiration, or just, sorry, uh, evaporation, allowing rain to recharge aquifer. Here's a nice um, illustration of the difference created by ground cover. Um, the surface ground temperature is 43. It sounds like Beijing during a hot summer day. And a little bit of ground cover reduces it enormously. A little more helps too. But no, it's not relevant to life, is it? No. Well, let's talk about carbon dioxide floating far above our heads, invisibly. Um, when the ground cover will prevent evaporation, allowing rain to be absorbed in the soil, recharging aquifer, groundwater during dry seasons, which can allow trees to grow, which will help create clouds because trees release a lot of moisture through evapotranspiration and further reduce daytime temperatures. Finally, the 1 to 2 degrees Celsius fluctuations in average yearly temperatures, sometimes associated with sun cycles, are clearly insignificant compared to the effect of deforestation. Consider how much trees can reduce daytime temperatures. Here's a science article. The cooling efficacy of trees across cities is determined by background climate, urban morphology, and tree trait. And I've underlined an important sentence here. Trees can lower pedestrian level temperatures by up to 12 degrees. That's significant. But no, cities are getting hotter because of greenhouse gases. Sure they are. Trees also influence rainfall, as I mentioned, and we are concerned about droughts. If you like eating, you should be concerned about droughts. Um, because all other factors are relatively stable, sunshine specifically, mostly, And as we shall see, even cloud cover depends on tree cover, as this also implies. Trees are the leading factor in determining local temperatures. And if tree cover is declining globally, tree cover is the leading factor in determining global daytime and nighttime temperatures. Moreover, as stated above, fewer trees means declining cloud cover and rainfall. When moisture evaporates from leaves exposed to the sun, this is called evapotranspiration, and it helps reduce temperatures on the ground as cooler water rises inside the tree to replace the lost evaporated water. Additionally, trees release bacteria into the air. These bacteria have no function except to drift up into the sky and make water vapor form ice crystals around them, which results in rainfall. Oh, well, I forgot to cover this slide. Excuse me. Oases are a good example, are good evidence of how much trees can lower temperatures. Um, Usually 2 to 7 degrees cooler than the surrounding deserts, sometimes as much as 9 degrees. And that's the difference between perhaps perishing from heat stroke and feeling comfortable. Okay, here we go. Amazon trees summon rain. They release particles that seed clouds and start the rainy season earlier. So it's not a case where, I mean, the common belief is that you need rain to grow trees. Yes and no, you need trees to create rain. It's uh, it's a wonderful, um, mutually bene mutually causal, mutually causing um, cycle relationship. The rain making bacteria also coming from microbes in the soil. Pseudomonas syringae. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful how nature works. One more? No. Okay. Compared to deserts, which can be near freezing at night, even in hot climates, tree cover actually raises nighttime temperatures, lowering daytime temperatures, raising nighttime temperatures. In general, trees moderate day to night temperature fluctuations because of their water content. In contrast, deserts exacerbate day to night temperature fluctuations. As you can see, there's a hot desert here, up to 49 degrees Celsius during the day, right down to 4 degrees Celsius at night, nearly freezing, sometimes freezing. That's very inhospitable environment. What's the solution? What would be the average? That's an interesting question. 49 plus 4 would make 53. The average there would be 26.5 degrees Celsius. That would be perfect. Perfectly comfortable temperatures if it would just be stable. Um, Here's a map of global temperature averages. Curiously, very curiously, uh, rainforests, jungles, here and there primarily, and Indonesia, those parts of India, those areas register the same average temperature as deserts, primarily here, the Sahara. Um, parts of Australia beneath its thin um, coastline with jungle, I believe. There we have Saudi Arabia, same average temperature as jungles, rainforests. That's because the average, we're talking, this is recording averages. Whether we have deserts or forests, the average global temperature does not change. No energy is lost or gained. That is the law of thermodynamics. Here's the average temperature the of an Amazon rainforest. Maybe this was in Colombia. Monthly averages. It's about 25 point something, very close to the average temperature of a hot desert, but without the fluctuations that would make life nearly impossible. Mm. Of course, rainfall decreases as tree cover decreases. That's another important difference between deserts and rainforests. In short, the climate crisis is not a crisis of rising average temperatures for the planet. It is a crisis of rising daytime temperatures and declining nighttime temperatures caused by declining tree cover. And it is a declining rainfall crisis, aka a drought crisis. This is quite evident to anyone aware of the droughts plaguing farms in nearly all countries. Anyone who likes eating should probably pay attention. Yeah, I think this is covering droughts in the US. Drought, nothing but dry heat. And I had to draw attention to the comment at the bottom here. Natural disasters are compromising the nation's food supply. With drought being primary concern. But wait a second, natural disasters? No, no, no. We have to take responsibility for deforestation, which has been ongoing for a few centuries. Ironically, farmers complain about droughts, but farming at present is the leading cause of droughts. And historically, that's one of the primary reason we deforest this planet for agriculture. But the farmers are crying, give us more rain. Well, they weren't around perhaps when we deforested most of the fields that are currently used by farmers. So they have conveniently forgotten. And if it wasn't forest, it was savanna, grassland that was permanently covered with greenery. Now, with agriculture, monocropping, tilling, the land is often absolutely bare after harvests, and not for a short while, but for extended periods. I see that around me. Where here people grow corn for 4 months of the year, 5 months of the year, and for the rest of the time they leave the land bare. The climate crisis is not caused by increased CO2 levels. It is caused by deforestation and secondarily by urbanization. Cities raise temperatures within themselves, which is why they are called heat islands. Incredibly, most of the world's temperature monitoring equipment is in or near cities, giving an inaccurate assessment of global temperatures. How serious is the deforestation and desertification problem? The UN considers desertification a top priority, claiming 40% of the Earth's land is at risk of desertification, which isn't good news because 40% of the Earth's land is already either a hot or cold desert. Yeah. Um, why do we have so many deserts? Well, unfortunately, deforestation has a long history. Many centuries ago, as humans moved north, away from tropical climates, they cut trees and burned the wood for heat and for cooking meat. Because temperate climates don't produce fruit during winters, hunting became more important as large game such as buffalo and other herbivores and mammals were hunted off the land. The land lost keystone species that keep the land green and cool. I was amazed. I've watched a few documentaries about how buffalo and beaver actually keep or enrich the land, improve ecosystems. Amazing how harmonious nature works. The spread of domesticated animals demanded pastures, which also incentivized people to cut down forests, as is still happening today. And domesticated livestock are often allowed to overgraze, creating barren landscapes. Next, the spread of agriculture demanded fields, which further incentivized clear-cutting forests for grains and beans and other crops. How many millions of square kilometers of forests did we destroy? Paleontologists believe the world's largest desert, the Sahara, was once a green savanna. But most scientists assume non-human natural causes created the Sahara thousands of years ago. I don't believe this convenient explanation. I suspect humans were responsible, and I'm not alone in my suspicion. Um, there's more warnings about um, loss of forests every year, 75 billion tons of loss of soil. Soil is being lost. It's erosion created mostly by agriculture. This is the article I wanted. Solving the mysteries of the Sahara. The Sahara Desert used to be green and lush. Then humans showed up. This is, I believe, by a professor working in Korea, Jeremy Deaton. Um, Today, the Sahara is defined by undulating dunes, indeed, indeed. A new study suggests humans played a big role, leading role, causal role, primary cause. This is a after and before picture. It's mostly based on speculation, but I buy it. This is what's happening around the Sahara and the Sahel to the south. Livestock, goats, especially, very damaging to ecosystems. Plants don't have a chance. It's overgrazing. There are no, of course, we've eliminated the predators that might control these herds and give plants a chance to, green the environment again, the land again, but no, we must have our meat. And, well, who cares about plants? Unless they can feed more livestock, we don't need them. Um, let's see, no deserts exist in Europe, but semi-deserts stretch from Spain to Greece. Why? Almost no one ever proposes that human activity created those semi-deserts. Did the Greek gods care about their barren land? No. It's not a theme in Greek mythology, because the Greek gods were invented by people who don't care about trees and preferred grasslands and fields. That's why the Greek gods love their cattle, not their fruit, which is why the golden apple of Greek mythology is almost as bad as the forbidden fruit of Judeo-Christian mythology. I may do a whole lecture on trees and fruit in the Bible. Very interesting pattern emerges when you investigate, examine that carefully. There's a discovery of a 4,000-year-old structure in Greece, in barren Greece. It stumps, it bewilders archaeologists and threatens major airport construction. Well, many of us, myself included, studied ancient ruins scattered in the world's hot deserts and semi-deserts. Perhaps they were abandoned, those ruins, and allowed to become ruins because humans overexploited and ruined their environment first. Hey, I wonder if that makes sense. Yes, those geniuses who erected all those temples and castles, fortresses that are now in the middle of deserts and semi-deserts. Maybe those geniuses overexploited their environments first and then had to abandon their lovely temples. Right. Could be. Well, instead of caring about ancient ruins, perhaps we should forget them and focus on greening the ruined environment. What a thought. There's another lovely ruin in the midst of a ruined environment. And who gets all the attention? Yeah, the ruined temples. No one cares about the ruined environment. Almost no one. Well, I don't blame all deserts on human activity. But we know that current human activities, mostly agriculture, are currently expanding deserts. So why not suspect that some deserts were created by human activity before modern times? In any case, we have too much desertified land on our planet, and that is the cause of real climate change. What's the solution to this problem? The great misleaders of our time want us to eliminate meat or livestock. Livestock and agriculture, in general, are the leading causes of deforestation and real climate change, and they are two of the leading causes of health problems. Obviously, neither a meat-based nor a small plant-based diet bode well for forests. Small annual crops are arguably worse than free-range livestock, but both eliminate forests and healthy grasslands and potentially healthy grasslands if the livestock are not managed very carefully. Fortunately, a third option exists, a tree-based diet. Fruit and nuts can easily feed us if we engage in a worldwide tree planting program. Is anyone or any country working to reforest barren and desertified land? Some large-scale tree planting campaigns do exist, including the ambitious Trillion Trees campaign, which is falling short of its goal to one extent or another. Perhaps every country is planting trees, but not fast enough. And what kind of trees are being planted? Rarely food-bearing trees. Global drought risk and water stress, largely in places where agriculture is dominating land use. We're taking a lot of water out of aquifer to hydrate plants, to give life to plants and livestock, because there's not enough rain. So we resort to pumping water out of the ground. Those are really emergency reserves that we've become addicted to. Mm. Drought frequency, intensity, and exposure have increased due to historical land use and land cover changes. I agree. We show this article shows that historical land use changes since 1850, mainly deforestation and crop expansion, has increased the drought frequency, duration, and severity over half of the global land area. Regions, well, that's enough. More droughts, the famous Dust Bowl caused by eliminating indigenous plants and replacing them mostly with wheat and corn, and plowing, of course, leaving the land barren for many months at a time. Ongoing droughts are not few and not minor. Water stress, um, lack of, I think this is for both groundwater and above groundwater. The Columbia River, the lake near the Hoover Dam or behind the Hoover Dam disappearing. Uh, I believe Las Vegas is facing serious challenges to its existence due to its water crisis. Chinese farmers, American farmers sucking water out of the ground, out of where the water reserves are slowly vanishing. Reputedly, allegedly, we have limited time. Farmers have limited time for depending on aquifer to provide the water they need to feed us. Sounds rather serious. Well, I was going to share some images of websites. First one, trilliontrees.org. One moment as I shift gears. This is the Trillion Trees campaign. Forests are our only hope. I'm afraid they're not very serious about planting fruit and nut-bearing trees that can help support human life. No, we wouldn't want to destroy our industrial food industry, do we? That would also destroy the medical health industry, as we would get healthy much faster very quickly if we ate more organic fruit and nuts. And the United Nations G20 initiative, Global Land Initiative. Yeah, we know. They want to rewild much of the planet. Rewild it, fine, but could you plant some nut and fruit-bearing trees for all of us? No, it's not interesting to them. They'd rather have us eating insects. Um, Here in Oaxaca, Mexico, let me change the screen again. Go back to my first slide or last slide or no slide. How's that? Yeah, stop share. Go back to my first slide. As I was saying, here in Oaxaca, Mexico, the government has planted pine trees. The same happens in Canada, uh, where trees are planted for the wood and pulp and paper industries. Can we eat pine cones? In China, several large-scale land rehabilitation programs involved tree planting. Almost none cared to plant food-producing trees, and one exclusively planted willow trees. In Africa's semi-desert Sahel region, the Great Green Wall project seems sensible as it includes food-producing trees such as the baobab, desert date, mango, and moringa. But the ambitious Great Green Wall project is not quite a success, perhaps despite support from the UN's World Food Program. The reason for falling short of being a great success, well, people do not yet want to change their diets. Good dietary changes require discipline and intelligence, which sadly most people don't have. Plus, thanks to a century of pro-urban propaganda and addiction to the so-called conveniences of city life, people don't wish to live in forests, not even food forests. How can we overcome the pro-urban propaganda of our world? Only by thinking, developing our ability to think. So, let's think about city life. Cities can't exist without people working in factory farms and slaughterhouses, in food processing factories and on farms. And most people don't want those jobs. But most people don't want to switch to a diet that eliminates farmers' fields, factory farms, and slaughterhouses. So they let other people do the work they don't want to do. It's obviously hypocritical. It means that what's not good enough for us is good enough for someone else. It means I won't, but you will. I wonder, is that the voice of a good conscience or a corrupted conscience? The real cause of droughts and overheating cities is simply civilization, which can't exist without engaging in deforestation. This problem won't be solved by robots or with recycling, electric cars, bicycles, reduced air travel, and reduced meat consumption. The problem of civilization will only be solved when we cease supporting civilization and become Mother Nature's forest gardeners. This is the clear and logical conclusion of my very logical assessment of our unsustainable and hypocritical civilization. It can't continue. But if it does continue, one day we will eat insects and hunt each other. Don't say I didn't warn you. Don't even say that the entertainment media didn't warn you, because they did. I will now read out a list of notable movies and books in which dystopian realities result in cannibalism. Tender is the Flesh, 2017. The Road, 2006. The Wanting Seed, 1962. Meat, 2008. Earthlings, 2020. Cloud Atlas, 2004. And movies and series. Famously, Soylent Green, 1973. That's a classic dystopian film where the population survives on processed rations called Soylent Green, which are revealed to be made from human corpses. Other examples include The Road, 2009, The Bad Batch, 2016, Delicatessen, 1991, Snowpiercer, 2013, The 100, a TV series from 2017, extreme and splatter punk horror. Well, we have Off Season by Jack Ketchum. Just endless warnings, I think, from the entertainment sector, which is controlled by our enemies who are cannibals and probably look forward to the day when we have to eat each other. Exquisite Corpse, lovely stuff. 1996. Brother, 2015. And there are other notable mentions to, what are three of them here? Alive, the story of the Andes survivors. Yes, sure. People ate each other there, as they did in the North Pole when the ships were stuck and the explorers had no food except each other. Anyway, of course, none of these stupid movies, books, and TV series connect the real climate crisis to cannibalism. Of course not. They don't want us to understand anything. Um, well, I expect one day they will connect cannibalism to the global warming hoax and the CO2 hoax. That might help convince people to make the changes our enemies, want us to make. Well, what will we do if we're only interested in consuming interesting podcasts? Well, then this hasn't been very useful. We need integrity and courage to act on facts and be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Why even hesitate to make the changes suggested or implied by this lecture? The lifestyle changes demanded by the facts presented here will only improve your life.